Good day, students. So, welcome to another lecture on metrology and measurements. So, this particular topic we'll be discussing about types of standards. So, we discussed about the need for standards, how we can determine a standard. That's what we'll be discussing now. So, standard is an exact quantity that people agree to use for comparison. So, if you are measuring 1 kilogram, you need some form of standard to determine that is 1 kilogram. So, that is what is the need for standard. So in the previous lecture, I asked a question, how can you determine this particular value is 1 kilogram? Who determines that this is 1 kilogram? So that is being done by International Bureau of Standards. There was a convention in Paris some 100 years back to determine what is a acceptable standard for measurement. For example, length, what is an acceptable standard? A meter. So how much is 1 meter? How can you determine this is 1 meter? So that was established in Paris Convention. So once they determine this is 1 meter, this particular quantity is 1 meter, then you have to make a measuring, you have to make a object for exactly 1 meter to keep it as a standard. So how they came up with 1 meter is quite an interesting topic. So they measured a length of distance from Paris to some country, and then they divided it multiple times in order to arrive for one particular meter. So once that was established, then you have to calibrate, then you have to make an object which is exactly 1 meter in length. So that object was made using alloy of platinum and iridium, to be exactly 90% platinum and 10% iridium. So this is a very versatile material, and the cross section of the material was X in shape. So this is to minimize the torsional strain. Torsional means twisting strain, and also bending strain, etc. To minimize that, it was shaped in the form of X. So many replicas were made, and one replica was kept as the primary standard for measurement. So that particular standard is being utilized throughout the world for measurement. So that particular standard is actually kept in Paris, and replicas of those standards were made and distributed throughout the world in order to determine 1 meter. Similarly, for weight also, they made a similar object using iridium platinum alloy, as you can see here. And that particular object is the standard for 1 kilogram. If you need to clarify 1 kilogram, then you have to go to Paris and you have to compare. But that primary standard is actually kept in a very, very closed room in order to prevent it from environmental effects. So that is the primary standard for weight. But now 1 meter is a very large quantity in now in the present world, because we are talking in terms of nanometers, Armstrong, etc. So in such cases, the meter becomes irrelevant. So now at present, the standard for length has actually changed. So this object is not particularly in use because now it is measured by wavelength. So one thing which is constant throughout the world is light. Anything can change. For example, you can take this alloy itself. 100 years I have kept this alloy, even though it is kept in a vacuum sealed in some room, some form of deviation may occur because this is again a material which tends to deteriorate over time. But if you take light, that is the most stable element known to man because it does not deteriorate with time. Any other thing, you can take any matter, for example, it will deteriorate with time. But light is one quantity which does not deteriorate with time. Hence, now wavelength is used, particularly krypton. The wavelength of krypton is being used to determine the length nowadays, because you have to be more and more accurate. Since you are talking in terms of nanometers, you have to be more and more accurate, and hence more accurate form of standardization has come into play. So I hope you understood the need for standardization. So there are different types of standards which we'll discuss in the upcoming lecture video. Thank you, students. We'll meet in the next lecture.